Hi, Claire.
Hi, how's it going? Good to see
It's
you.
good. Yeah, it's so great to see you, and it's so nice to be able to talk to my counterpart, who is in charge
Yes,
of another
absolutely.
mentorship program.
Absolutely, absolutely. I've been in this role for like 2 years now at EDF's mentorship program, so I'm excited to talk about our similarities and how it really helps in the recovery process. So yeah, thank you for having me.
Yeah, and there are also some differences, and I feel that the programs really complement each other and kind of give
Mhm.
people two different options. So I'd love to talk about what we have in common and what sets us apart and what people can, how can people benefit from both programs. So you work at EDF, where
Yep.
can you tell us a little bit about the structure of the mentorship program?
Yeah, absolutely. So, if I haven't said, my name is Claire. I'm a program coordinator at the Eating Disorder Foundation. We're a nonprofit that's based in Denver, Colorado, but we have virtual services all for free, and it's all peer support. So one of our main programs is our mentorship program. So we run it on a 10-week quarterly schedule throughout the year. So we really like to look at it as like a short-term intervention. You get matched up with a mentor who is around the same age as you, has similar intersections, identities as you, and you really get to work on one specific goal throughout the 10 weeks. And we really like to view it as like taking that 10 weeks to really build yourself up, get growth, really just feel like you're feeling more empowered and motivated for recovery. So that's like our main goal. I know yours is a little longer term, being 6 months. So I think, yeah, we like to look at ours as like a brief intervention almost. But I think the biggest thing is just like breaking that silence and talking about eating disorders. The more you talk about it, the more you're actively working towards your recovery. So I think that's the biggest takeaway of a program like ours.
Yeah, yeah. So my name is Liron, and I am the program coordinator, the mentorship program coordinator for ANAD. We're also a nonprofit, also all peer support based, and all of our services are free and virtual. And so for us, the program lasts 6 months. So we recruit twice a year, sorry, both mentors and mentees. And we are also very goal focused in that we like our mentees and our mentors to work towards goals, but they can be varied, they can be small, they can be big, they can change, they can evolve. And really, it's just like you said, a lot of it is about the connection, it's about breaking that isolation, having somebody who can embody that hope that recovery is possible and that belief in the mentee that they can do it as well. Um, and really working towards something so meaningful that both the mentee gets but also the mentor by being
Absolutely.
able to take such a difficult experience from their past and turning into something that's so purposeful and meaningful, that we feel that it's a win-win and everybody benefits, including staff. So
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Yeah, I like to say it's a mutually beneficial um, position for the mentors as well. I think they get to really learn like how far they've come. I've heard from our mentors that they're exercising skills they haven't used in a while and really just feel like grateful. I think the biggest line I hear too is like, I wish I had this for when I was struggling, when I was in the depths of my eating disorder. So I think a lot of folks view it as like that giving back, but also like they get a lot out of it too. I think it's important to still have community and connection even when you are in sustained recovery. And we kind of like to look at our like mentor group like that too, of like you get to talk with the other mentors, you get to bounce ideas back and forth and talk about what it's like to be in this role, and you get that like community support piece as well, which is super cool.
yeah, absolutely. We have a lot of support for our mentors
Mhm.
because, first of all, throughout the 6 months, they attend supervision, which is a big, scary word for basically just a support group where
Mhm.
we talk about what's going on with you and your mentee and how we can better support you. And it's also a place to build community. We have trainings and opportunities for people to share their stories and just attend, social gatherings and other things and all sorts of webinars and just expanding both their toolkits to help their mentees, but just like you said, it's also learning new skills for yourself, practicing skills that you haven't practiced in a while, and even just having that accountability of I'm there, helping somebody else, and I'm going to sustain my recovery and strengthen my recovery because I want to continue being this role model, and I understand how important recovery and maintaining recovery and working on maintaining recovery is. So it's really a beautiful, supportive environment.
Absolutely. We have a similar a similar way of doing things with our mentor support groups. I think they're like every other week, our mentors can get on Zoom with me and whoever else wants to join. And it's the same thing of like, let's support each other. How can we best support our mentees? And also it's just like a social check-in too of like, this is what's going on in my day. Like, this is what's coming up for me. So yeah, it's a really great way for the mentors to stay connected too.
Yeah, and
We
you said,
also we also do training for our mentors, and I think it's similar with yours. Our requirements for our mentors is at least 2 years in recovery. Of course, we know that looks so different for everyone, but at least for the purposes of becoming a mentor, we really want to make sure you're in a place where you can hear potentially triggering topics and talk intimately about eating disorders and really feel like that won't compromise your recovery at all. So we take a lot of care in making sure that our mentors feel supported and we're screening properly and making sure that they are in a good place to take on the role.
yeah, absolutely. And you say that a lot of the mentors say that they wish that they had something like that when they were going through their eating disorder. And in fact, we have mentees who come back and become
Mhm.
mentors after they've been in recovery for, a long enough period that they feel that they can give back. And that is such a beautiful cycle, that is really the gift that keeps on giving. And it's also, I hear sometimes from mentees while they're in the program, I want to be a mentor someday, and that is an incentive that motivates
Mhm.
me to continue working, to continue putting in the hard work, so that someday I can help somebody else. Because it's really, I find that the community of people with eating disorders, they have high levels of compassion and empathy and
Absolutely.
altruism, and really so much of the time wanting to help others can be such a motivating force. So again, it's like from so many different angles, this is a beneficial and beautiful program that we run. And I mean, I'm not biased at all, obviously.
Me neither. Yeah, I feel the exact same way. I think the one of the biggest topics that come up in mentorship is like, how do you keep your motivation to recover? How do you wake up every morning wanting to choose this? And I think that opportunity of knowing that you can eventually be on the other side of it and support someone else is a really big factor for folks. When we going back to like when we were talking about like the goal setting throughout the mentorship too, a really big one is like motivation factors like that. But something about our program too is that we really want to make sure that you're focusing on things outside of your relationship from food and body. So we think that, a goal of limiting eating disorder behaviors or, following a specific meal plan is something that you would do more with a clinical professional. I think the way we look at it, like in our mentorship, is building things outside of that. So, like a common goal that you'd work on for 10 weeks in us is like, I really want to focus on my self care by going for like a nature walk once a week, or I want to focus on going to all of my appointments or something like that. So, we really like to look at it from like that bridge between like the clinical and non-clinical, where we view like the mentorship.
Yeah. So for us, we talk a lot about goal setting during
Mhm.
the training. And I think the main thing for us is that it comes from the mentee, so that the mentee
Absolutely.
comes up with a goal, not the mentor telling them what the goal should be. And then kind of strategizing, okay, let's make sure that the goal, because every time it's a different goal. So for us, it's 6 months. So again,
Mhm.
goals change, and to make it achievable, because it really is important that, it takes the mentee out of their comfort level a little bit, but it's not impossible to the point that they will feel like a failure. We want them to succeed so that they can continue building on the success. And so the goals are really, we try to make them aligned with values, right? We try to kind of differentiate the eating disorder voice from the authentic voice, and what is an eating disorder value and what is our actual value. And then can we set goals that are aligned with our values? And they can be really anything. And we find that a lot of the time also goals kind of overlap. A goal that will be maybe social or, personal in any way, a lot of the time also involves having to set an eating disorder recovery goal so that you can achieve that other goal. So a
Mhm.
lot of the time there's a lot of overlap. But definitely, I think that, it's interesting because I used to say, okay, mentorship kind of has two layers. One is the emotional layer of motivation and role modeling and providing hope and all that stuff. And then there's the practical, let's set goals, let's work on coping skills and all those things. And then I found out that hope is a construct that is made of setting goals and achieving them. So there's no difference really. The
It's
two
all
go hand
intertwined.
in hand.
Yep. Mhm. Exactly. And I think too, like what I hear, I always like, we do check-ins with our mentors and our mentees, and I always get to hear about like the goal setting and all of that. But I also like to really make sure that both parties know that it's okay, that like this is also just like social connection and community and conversation. You can talk about your day, and it's really, we try to make the emphasis that it's really casual. It is really just connecting with someone. So if you spend your whole 1 hour meeting talking about like an upcoming event that you're excited for and how to stay recovery focused during that, like that's just as good as working on a very specific goal. So I think just that like community and conversation piece sounds like it's the same takeaway for both our programs.
Yeah, especially because, I always say distress tolerance and sitting with the
Mhm.
discomfort is a huge part of recovery
Yes.
work. And so if somebody's having a bad day and they're experiencing some feelings that they just want to sit with and have you sit there with them so that they're not alone with them, that's
Mhm.
in itself so powerful and so empowering to the mentee. So I think that mentorship looks so many different ways and goals look so many different ways. And really, ultimately, what I always say is it is that human connection. It is knowing that
Mhm.
somebody understands you and not judging you, and that you're not alone in this, and that somebody else was able to do it. And so you have even the tiny bit of hope that you can too. And that is really what is the healing part more than anything else.
Yeah,
Um,
I feel the same exact way.
yeah. And so you also have some requirements that the mentees have to meet in order to join your program, right?
Yeah, so we really think that it works best as like a supplement to your existing clinical support. Because again, the biggest thing we stress is that our mentors are not professionals, they're volunteers. So, and they're trained and they have support, but they're not able to do the same things as like a clinical professional is. So it's not a replacement for that. So one of our requirements is that our mentees have existing clinical support in place, whether that look like therapist, dietitian, and we also think it's important that you're on the outpatient level of care. If you are in any type of higher level of care treatment, like a PHP or IOP, we even include that. We really want you to focus on that clinical care at that point. And then when you step down to the outpatient level is when we think it's best appropriate to apply to a mentorship program. And then we also accept 16 and up. So even if you're, in high school, we can sometimes get fellow high school mentors. And yeah, so those are our three requirements. I think you have pretty similar ones just to make sure that it does feel like an appropriate time to get this type of support.
Yeah, again, just like we feel that very strongly about peer support being additional support, not a
Mhm.
substitute for treatment. And the mentors are trained to use their lived experience, but they're not clinicians, and so it's important
Mhm.
that they're not, in any way viewed that way. So yes, so our mentees do have to be in therapy, meeting
Mhm.
regularly with a licensed therapist, 16 and over as well. Although our mentors' minimum age is 18, so.
Mhm.
But 18 and 16 are not that far apart.
Exactly.
And they have to be residing in the US,
Mhm.
and they have to get a clinical clearance from their therapist that they are, that this program is a good fit for them. Just like you said, they're an outpatient level, and that this is a really good time for them to benefit from the program, that they're in a place where they can focus on their eating disorder recovery work, because the
Mhm.
mentorship program is pretty intense, right? They meet
Mhm.
every week for an hour. They do work together. So for us, it's 6 months. So we want to make sure that they can, in a place in their life where that commitment is right for them.
Exactly, exactly. And I think that's interesting too of like, my favorite parts of the job is like the matching process and really finding that good match. Like I feel like a matchmaker sometimes. So I know like when people ask like what they got most out of this program, I always hear too is like I finally got to talk to someone who looks like me or has the same like co-occurring disorders as me. And that's something as the program coordinator in this role that I take as like my highest priority of like I'm gonna do a screening call with you, ask you about your interests, ask you about what else is going on in your life, so I can learn more about you, and then find you that good match. I think I hear like I've never talked to someone who's also like, for example, like a trans athlete before, and then I somehow have a mentor who's also a trans athlete, and I get to match them up, and it's like such a rewarding process. Or like something else that comes up a lot is like disability or chronic illness. I think matches based off of that can be super powerful, or BIPOC folks, even things that are like, I'm a really artistic person and I would love to get matched with someone who's also artistic, and then they get to do things like visions boards together, or like create like comics together. I've had a pair do that. So things like that are what's my favorite part of the job, and I think what makes it really unique and different than a lot of other like peer support that's out there.
Yeah, I was gonna ask you what your favorite part about the role is, and matching
Yeah,
nothing mine.
yeah,
A huge role, and you have to put it together. And it's just, I don't think that oftentimes mentees or mentors even realize that we look at all these different things, that it's not just putting, sometimes they think that maybe we match based on what type of eating disorder they have. And that's in
Mhm.
fact the last thing that I
Me
usually
too.
look at.
Yeah, that's like the bottom factor, I think.
Yeah, there's
Yeah,
so many other things. I mean, I've matched people because they were passionate about animal rights advocacy,
yep.
things like that, and and they don't even realize that they could meet somebody who doesn't just have that in common with them, the eating disorder part, but so many other things, and that's so validating to be able to talk to somebody who understands all the intersections of eating disorder with so many other parts of life and our place in society and our feelings in our body and all that stuff. And it's just, that's one of my favorite things when people tell me, thank you so much. My match is so amazing. I can't believe
Mhm.
how much this person is like me. And sometimes it comes down to even a gut feeling because there are
Yeah.
things sometimes that I don't know about people that I haven't asked. We have a very detailed application. I send surveys. I meet with the mentors, and I get to know them very well because I train them. But sometimes it's really like, I don't know, the way that this person has written their application, like the way that they phrase things just make me think
Mhm.
that they would work really well with this person's style. And so that's it. Sometimes there's a little bit of magic in there too. I don't know where it comes
Exactly. Yeah,
from.
I feel the same way too. I think like even something when it's like, oh, I really like to use dark humor in my recovery, and then I know I have a mentor who's like hilarious, and I'm like, okay, this will be a great match together.
Yeah.
It also makes me think like when you ask about like who has access to like eating disorder treatment, who has access to care, sometimes they're not seeing people like them in formal treatment spaces. So of course, this is not a replacement for treatment, but they really do get to meet someone who has had a similar experience to them that, maybe they didn't have access to before. So I think that's also what makes it really special too.
Yeah, and I also love that you brought up, like the vision board and things like that, because I
Mhm.
also love to see how creative mentors can be, and
Yeah.
especially if they meet somebody who is on like a similar wavelength as they are. I've seen people read books together and do arts together, and if they're into kind of more activism, then they lean into that. There are so many ways to be a mentor, and I mean, we give everybody the basic training but then they bring their own special identity and who they are, and the mentees bring who they are. And again, I feel like there's a lot of magic that goes in these
Mhm.
matches. Just being able to meet with a person on such an intimate level every week and work with them on something that really people don't feel necessarily as comfortable opening up to other people who don't have that personal lived experience.
Mhm.
Because sometimes there's shame. Sometimes there's just miscommunications or inability to express how you really feel to somebody who really doesn't get it. So having that special place where somebody truly understands you, it's just really, really special. And I'm so happy
Mhm.
that we can offer that to people.
Me too. I think like a thing that I see come up a lot too is like that role playing aspect of like, just like you were saying, where like, as supportive as friends and family can be, if they don't have that lived experience themselves, it's hard to feel like you're being heard and hard to feel like that you're really like understood in your recovery. So I think when you have a mentor and you can be like, oh, I really want to talk to like my partner about this more, but I don't know how to do it. You get to like practice with a mentor who might have had that experience themselves. So I think I see that as a really cool way to use your mentorship too.
Yeah. Yeah, I think kind of what we're saying ultimately is that mentorship can be so many different things.
Mhm.
And it's really for us, it's always mentee led, right? They come to us and they tell us what they need from us, where they are in their lives, what is something they want to work on, what's important to them. So we're always going to listen first and tailor it to what they need and they want. And I just feel so lucky that that's what we get to do every day. I
Yeah, me
mean,
too. Me
I've heard
too.
that.
It's super rewarding on my end, and I think too, like we're Denver based, but we have a in-person building out here, and we can sometimes do in-person matches too. And it's really special when we get two people who never knew each other before, and then they get to meet up here in our building, or sometimes they go like to a coffee shop. I've had a match go to like a rock climbing class before in person, and they get that like community.
Yeah, so for us, it's all virtual. And I know that sometimes people would have liked to meet in person, but what I love about the fact that it's virtual is the fact that I can match somebody in Alaska and somebody in New York
Yep.
because they have a lot in common and they will work really well together, even if they will never be able to meet in person, even if they would never have, had the opportunity to be with somebody who is so similar to them if they were constricted to where they lived. So I
Mhm.
like to, be able to match anybody and everybody. And it's such a huge country. And to think that, my ability to find somebody who is such a good match is probably because it's not based on geography. So
Yeah.
so they meet virtually, but they meet every week for an hour on video. So it's really important to us that it is on video so that there is that
Mhm.
interaction. We can see body language, we can see facial expressions,
Mhm.
And thank goodness for Zoom and technology and all that make that possible. I mean, I live far away from my family, so I'm grateful for this all the time.
Yeah.
Um, but I think really to me what all of our work, we also have support groups, we have a helpline.
Mhm.
What all of peer support work in general is all about the community and about connection. And I think again that is at the very basic healing that we all do is by connecting to somebody else. And so all of our peer support work is both about connection with beneficiaries and with one another. So creating a community where volunteers and our beneficiaries and again staff
Mhm.
feel seen and heard and understood, and no matter where they are in their journey, they can find people who understand them and who share a similar experience. I think that's something that is very unique. And I know that it's something that didn't exist in the past. I didn't have it,
Mhm.
just like you said.
Yep.
But to me, it's like now that we know that it's possible, it's like, how could we ever do this without this? It's such a huge
Exactly.
part of, again, breaking that isolation that is so much at the heart of this
Yeah, exactly.
struggle.
Sometimes I'll get a mentee who applies, and they're like, I've never talked to anyone about this before except for my therapist. And then they get to join our program, and then I get to look at it as like they joined our community, and I get to connect them to your helpline. I get to connect them to our support groups, and they get to really enter like a thing that's bigger than them, and it really helps them just. I think when you talk about like sustaining recovery and how to have that hope and how to know it's possible, I think that community piece is like, yeah, the crux of it all.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Well, thank you so much, Claire. First of all, for me, it's a pleasure to be able to speak to somebody who, again, does the same work and knows the special benefits and rewards and excitement
Mhm.
that's around. I mean, right now we're recruiting. So I'm like, I have all my index cards and I'm doing my matching.
Yep, yep.
And I have all over my living room and I'm
The
like
big Tetris board, kind of.
I just put it on the rug. It's like all
Yep.
over my rug. But it's so much joy because it is just like I feel, it's such meaningful work. And I'm so excited about next month when they're gonna get to meet the mentors are gonna get to meet their mentees, the mentees are gonna get to meet their mentors, the team leads are gonna get to meet their mentor teams. And it's just I know that everybody is so excited. I know how when I was a mentor, right before the first day of the cohort, I would get so excited about, finding out who my new mentee is.
Mhm.
So this is just such a thrilling time for us. So I'm just really excited that, we both get to do this and that this is actually how we spend our days. I feel extremely grateful for that.
Too. Yeah, yeah. It's such a rewarding job, and I think too, knowing that like you're out there doing this work too, and how many people that were able to get matched up and support. Sometimes I hear back from folks like years later of like, I want to be a mentor again, or like I just thought about this thing my mentor told me, and I really get to stay in touch with a lot of folks. So yeah, I feel very lucky to be in this role and to be able to give this type of support to people. So yeah, I really appreciate you wanting to reach out about this. I think the more folks we can tell about this type of peer support, the better. So yeah, I encourage anyone who's listening to this who's interested in either becoming a mentor or a mentee to reach out to either of us, and it's super rewarding.
Yeah, and I especially want to say there are some people who might be older who have gone through their eating disorder treatment a
Mhm.
while ago, and they don't even know that a program like ours
Yeah.
exists. And so I hope this reaches a lot of people out there who might say, "Oh, I want to be a mentor. I didn't even know this existed." Or somebody else who never thought that they could find a place where they could talk to other people on a one-on-one basis and actually work closely with somebody on achieving their goals and having accountability and having that support, like walking with them hand by hand,
Mhm.
one week after the other. So I hope this reaches a lot of people and they can reach either of us and talk to us, and we would be happy to get them involved in our programs. But yeah, has been such a pleasure and such a joy. And thank you so much for being here today and for doing the important work that you do. And for anybody out there who is listening, I think the main difference is really that yours is very short-term goal
Mhm.
focused and ours is a little bit more long-term. So it kind of, it both is a longer-term commitment, but at the same time, it allows for kind of, again, like the evolution of a relationship and goals. So I think they could be really great hand in hand.
Yeah.
Sometimes somebody might be in a place where they're looking for a very short-term intervention. Sometimes they might be looking for more a long-term relationship. So there's something for everybody.
Exactly. And I think we have, it sounds like a little bit of opposite schedule. Your program, you're getting started right now. We're about like 4 weeks into ours too. So I think that's helpful for anyone out there who does want to try the different forms of mentorship, to kind of see which one works best for them.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Claire. Keep doing the amazing work you're doing.
You as well. Thank you so much for having me, and thank you for putting on this wonderful day. Eating Disorder Awareness Week is something that is super important to us. So yeah, we so appreciate you.
Yeah, and keep in touch.
Yes, absolutely.